Bruce Pearl gets huge news, and point guard Tahaad Pettiford is returning to Auburn. And Butch Thompson and the baseball team get ready to host their first ever Super Regional in Auburn history. We got a lot to talk about on this edition of the Uptempo Podcast. Let's go, man.
You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Woo! Yes, sir. Auburn family, Uptempo gang. What's up, man? I've missed you guys. It's been a couple of weeks. We had a lot of things going on behind the scenes here at the Uptempo Podcast. We got everything squared away. We're back and better than ever, baby, and ready to get in here and talk about some Auburn sports. We got a lot to catch up on. News broke a couple days ago, and I want to get in here and talk about it. Point guard Tahaad Pettiford returning to Auburn, baby. Withdrew his name from the NBA draft, and he performed pretty well in the combine. He had a couple of games in the scrimmage portion where he really balled out, had a couple of games later where he didn't perform as well, but it got sketchy there for a minute. Got sketchy. We didn't know if Tahaad was going to be back. And then you're looking at, oh boy, we don't have anybody coming back. What are we going to do? We got one guy coming back and a guy that we're expecting to take a big role, take a big jump next year and kind of increase his role. Taking a look at Tahaad's 2024-2025 stats from his freshman campaign, he averaged 11.6 points per game. He shot 42.1% from the field, 36.6% from the three-point line, 80.4% from the free throw stripe, and the 3 assists to 1.6 turnovers. So, when we take a look back at Tahaad's freshman year, the one thing that stands out to everybody is the big moments, right? We all know how Tahaad was able to step up at big moments, whether it be the Houston game, several games down there in Maui, where when we needed a bucket, he was able to get a bucket. Several performances throughout SEC play in the regular season where he just stepped up when Auburn had to have him. And another thing that stood out was when Tahaad got going, he really, really got going. So what does this mean for Auburn when we look ahead to next year? I think for starters, it obviously raises the ceiling a whole lot, and it raises the floor type thing. This team can go a lot farther now with Tahaad Pettiford, who was probably the second best player on the team last year. Well, we know that Janai Broome was the first. But in terms of talent, I think Tahaad Pettiford overall, when it's all said and done, probably the most talented guy on last year's team. Nobody else was really considered in the NBA draft process, despite all those guys having multiple years under their belt of collegiate basketball. And ultimately, I think that Tahaad probably got a late first round, early to mid second round grade, somewhere in there. And with NIL and all those kind of things in play, decided why not come back to Auburn. And he's got some unfinished business. He's got to feel like he's got some unfinished business. He played very well in that tournament. We look back to the Michigan game, he balled out. But in that Florida game, one of his worst games, he did struggle down the stretch in that game, especially late in that second half. Weren't able to close the deal. So I think that being his last game in an Auburn uniform, probably not something that set well with him. And now when you're looking at all the guys that have left, everybody, right? Everybody's gone. They were either out of eligibility. You had the TBM debacle and all that kind of stuff that went along with that. So bringing back a guy that knows Bruce Pearl, bringing back a guy that knows what Bruce Pearl expects, not just on the court. We'll talk about that in a second, but off the court, helping out all these new guys because we know Bruce will coach you up. Bruce will get on your ass. And having a guy in Tahaad that can pull those guys to the side and say, hey, look, I know Bruce is yelling at you right now. It's okay. He coaches hard. He loves hard. Just listen to him, trust him, and we can make a deep run because Tahaad's been there. Tahaad's experienced that with Bruce. And when we talk about on the court, it's not the easiest of non-conference schedules next year either for Auburn. There's some difficult opponents on there, and then you get into SEC play. That's going to be a whole gauntlet, right? you need a guy, you need at least one guy, in my opinion, that knows the system and can get everybody set up. And that's kind of I won't say concern as I look forward to next basketball season, but some of the questions I have as I look forward are just how are all these pieces going to fit? And you know what? I love to have a guy in Chaney Johnson back at the 4 spot, or obviously National Player of the Year candidate Janai Broome back at the 5. Sure. Well, I guess Janai played the 4 last year. Started at 4 while Dylan played the 5, and Chaney came off the bench as the 4. But what I'm saying is you could have a front court guy like that come back, but if you can only have one, like give me the dynamic point guard. Give me the guy that's responsible for setting everybody up on the court. And now he's going to come back in another year. He's going to have another offseason to work with Bruce, work with Stephen Pearl, work with all his individual coaches, get his game better. When we look at kind of what Tahaad needs to jump farther into that NBA draft process, into that top 25, top 15 lottery, edge of the lottery pick range, I think it's about consistency on defense. There's nothing he can do about his size. And I think that he plays with a ton of effort and tenacity on defense. There's little things that he can do to kind of overcome that size, to make up for that size, that lack of size that he has on the defensive end, and just be more consistent on that side. And there wasn't as much pressure on Tahaad last year to come off the bench. And you had so many guys, whether it be Denver or Miles Kelly, and all these cats could be cooking at any point in the front court guys as well. And Chaney and Janai obviously had the season that he had. That took some pressure off of Tahaad. Chad Baker-Mazara could go off at any point. That took some pressure off of Tahaad. Now he's going to be the starting point guard. He's going to be playing plus 30 minutes a game most likely. And everyone's going to be looking at him to be that leader on and off the court. I think Tahaad Pettiford's ready for it. As long as he stays healthy and everything goes according to plan, I think he's going to have a massive all-SEC, borderline, all-American type year. And I'm really, really excited that he was able to come back. Shout out to On the Victory. Shout out to Bruce. Shout out to everybody that's involved in making that happen, because the alternative, if Tahaad decides to stay in the draft, boy, Auburn would have been scrambling. Auburn would have been scrambling, trying to find an option, trying to find somebody to come in and run that point. So it's huge for Auburn. You can't overstate it. There's no telling how many wins it adds. And like I said, raises the ceiling very high, raises the floor an awful lot too. So very, very happy that Tahaad Pettiford will be returning to Auburn. And it's going to be electric. It's going to be electric, because if that's what he was as a freshman, we've seen the way that Bruce Pearl develops talent and his staff, right? Guys get better every single year under this staff. You're talking about a guy that's for sure an NBA talent. Tahaad will play in the NBA. He just wanted to come back, bump up his grade some more, ball out some more. He's got unfinished business, and I think that he's going to do that. He's going to do that. I think he's going to check all the boxes, and I think the next year he will be a guy that gets drafted in the first round of the NBA draft, and that'll obviously help Auburn out in recruiting and all those kind of things, whether it be high school portal. And so just really excited to see Tahaad on the court next year, and as good as he was as a freshman, to see that next step that he's going to take, boy, it's going to be electric next year in the Neville Arena, and I can't wait to see it. All right, let's talk about the baseball team. Swept through the regional last weekend. What an atmosphere in Plainsman Park. Set attendance records for the weekend. And when you think back to last year, not even making the SEC tournament, much less the big tournament, and the year before when Auburn hosted a regional and was 2 in a barbecue, big time, going 3-0, didn't even have to sweat out Monday like a lot of other teams. You saw LSU sweating it out versus Little Rock, Arkansas. That wasn't us, baby. Auburn was chilling. Man, just a big weekend from Bub Terrell, big weekend from Chris Rimbert. You know what Ike Irish is going to do. And I will not be at Friday's game, but I will be down. I will be up in Auburn Saturday. And if there is a game 3, we'll be at game 3 Sunday. Really excited. The first ever super regional at Plainsman, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Start times. Friday night, going to be late. So if you come home early from work, Get you a nap. If you come home late from work, get you a Red Bull, get you a coffee. ESPN 2, 8 p.m. Friday night Central Time. Game 2, quick turnaround. Scheduled to start at 2 p.m. Central Time Saturday afternoon. If you see me at Plainsman, don't be scared to come up and holler at me. I love to meet everybody. And then we'll see if there is a Game 3. Hopefully, we don't have to worry about Sunday. Hopefully, Saturday, we'll get to see the boys dogpile, punch their tickets to Omaha, and on they go. So hopefully we don't even have to worry about that. But if there is a game Sunday, then the start time and channel and all that is TBD. So looking at Coastal Carolina, they have won the College World Series. The only time they won that thing. That's one thing that they do have on Auburn, but this is a red-hot team. Probably the hottest team in the country. As hot as our boys are, Coastal's hotter. Coastal has won 21 games in a row. I'm going to stop and take a sip here because you're like, what? 21 games in a row. 21 games in a row. They're 51-11 overall. They are 7-6 versus quad 1 opponents with a number 5 RPI, and they have the 64th strength of schedule in the country. They don't play in a bad conference. It's not the SEC, but they don't play slouches either, and they do have a winning record versus quad 1 opponents. Team ERA of 3.22. They're solid. They're solid on the mound, and a team batting average of 290, so not too shabby there either. Looking at some of the guys that we need to worry about on Coastal Carolina, they got all 3 of their starting pitchers. Their weekend rotation is a combined 24-3 this year. Their Friday, Saturday, and Sunday starter are all established, and they're combined 24-3. Their ace is Jacob Morrison. He is 11-0 with a 2.19 ERA. Tough. That's man, that's going to be 11-0 with a 2.19 ERA. Now, I don't know how many lineups he's faced that have Chris Rembert, Ike Irish, Cooper McMurray, Bub Terrell's filling it. But man, that's some impressive stuff right there. And again, they've played solid competition, and Jacob's just been money all year. So that one's going to be interesting. Their other starters, they got Cameron Fleury, I believe it is. He's 7-1. His name doesn't even really matter, right? His first name's Cameron. He's 7-1 with a 3.12 ERA. And then they have another one. His name is Riley. He is 6-2 with a 2.90 ERA. So their ERAs from their 3 starters at Auburn we'll see this weekend: 2.19, 3.12, and then 2.90. So they got 3 studs that are going to take the bump. Auburn's got to get to them. The bullpen doesn't suck either. It's not like they got a bad bullpen. They're very solid, and they have a very high fielding percentage. That's one thing that stands out to me was when you look at Coastal, when you watch them play and analytically looking at their numbers, they're solid. There's not a lot of holes in this ball club. Team batting average overall, 290. Solid there. And then, boy, the pitching staff. From the bullpen, there's not a lot of holes in the bullpen. The starters, there's not a lot of holes there. And they don't make mistakes in the field. They don't beat themselves. So it's going to be a really tough matchup for Auburn, obviously. I mean, teams won 21 games in a row. That's just nuts. Kind of looking at where Auburn's sitting at. Team ERA well above 4, but the batting average is .305 right now. That's 32nd in the country. So we know what Auburn's lineup can do. I think that when we look at the keys of this series, for me, there's a couple of things. One, I hope EG's healthy. I hope Eric Guevara is good to go. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. When I heard Butch talking about it at the end of the last weekend, was they were going to see how he progressed during the week. That's looking at it like if I could pick one thing, it's like, let's make sure EG is good to go. But for me, when I look at a team like this with 3 starters that are just studs, and haven't been beat a lot this year and have been so consistent, you're going to have to take advantage of your opportunities. Auburn has to take advantage, and Butch preaches this about 2-out hitting. The 2-out hitting has to be on point, and the guys, I mean, like, you got to get that version of Bub Terrell that you got last weekend. You got to get something like that again. The Eric Snows, Derek Fabians, you guys, if it's up to y'all and there's 2 outs and a man on third, you got to find a way to get that hit. 2 outs and a man on second and third, you got to bring them both in. Auburn cannot miss the opportunities at the plate because Coastal's not going to give a lot to you. And when you look at a team that is so solid in the field as well as at the plate, and Coastal is, they're not going to beat themselves. So if you're Auburn, you have to take advantage of those opportunities because they're not going to give you a lot of opportunities. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. You're going to have to go out there and take it when you have the chance. And Auburn has to avoid that kind of mistake as well, right? These are going to be tight games, I believe. So Auburn has to avoid that colossal mistake, the Jabba, if you will. And that hasn't really been something that's happened to this version of the 2025 baseball team, but it is a super regional. The lights will be on. People will be watching. So Auburn's going to have to step up in that moment and make those clutch plays, right? And Auburn cannot. I mean, if on the flip side, if Auburn has a double play opportunity, you got to get it. It can't be all the runner just beat us out to first and something happens where eventually that guy gets around. Everything's got to be cleaned, buttoned up, and Auburn cannot shoot themselves in the foot. Have to take advantage of opportunities, especially with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, because it's going to be hard to even get to that point. And also, there's just going to have to be some like guys like Ike, guys like Cooper, guys like Rembert. They're going to have to put a couple balls over the fence this weekend, because when I say take advantage of your opportunities, that means a bad pitch, because you're not going to get a lot of bad pitches from these guys, right? So when they do hang one out over the plate, you can't smoke it 105 off the bat and it just go foul. That thing's got to clear. That thing's got to clear the wall fair this weekend, because there's just not going to be that many opportunities. So those are my keys. And then the obvious, right? Like Cameron Tilley, got to be better. Cameron Tilley's got to be better. He's got to get to the point to where he can at least give you 4 or 5. He can't get you 2 innings on Friday and then Carson have to carry you the next 5 or 6 again. That's not a winning formula. You kind of got lucky to get out of to that where that didn't hurt you in the regional, because your bats were just so crazy and the opponents you were playing weren't good enough to capitalize. Cannot have that kind of outing versus Coastal Carolina. And Sam Dutton has got to be close to, if not the best version of Sam Dutton. Like we've seen him at times this year when he was on. I think back to the LSU one where all the pressure was on him, because that's the team that basically told him he wasn't good enough to play for them. And Sam goes out there and just throws freaking darts all over the place all day. They couldn't hit our guy. That's the version of Sam Dutton that we're going to have to see this weekend as well. He wasn't bad in the regional. He did what he had to do, and it gave me some confidence moving forward, because he had those 2 back-to-back really rough starts. He was fine in the second game of the regional. Could have been a little bit better, could have been a little bit sharper, but it wasn't what we had seen in those previous 2 starts. So, but I don't even know if that might not be enough. He's got to improve on that and be a little bit better than that as well. So those are my keys, man. Like you got to get Cam Tilley, you got to come out and give me 4 or 5 in game 1. Game 2, Samuel Dutton. You gotta be that. We got to match some of these starting pitchers of theirs, right? And when we do get our opportunities at the plate, if they hang a pitch, we got to drive it. If we got guys on second and third, we got to get them in. And then obviously, this is just not the weekend where you can commit goofy errors or base running blunders too. Like we had some base running blunders last weekend that were just kind of atrocious. Didn't come back to hurt us or anything like that. But it's got to be a very clean effort from Auburn this weekend. And I will say this about Coastal Carolina. Showing them all the love because they are a very quality team. Winning 21 games in a row, at some point, that runs out. At some point, that streak runs out. And even if you play good baseball, baseball's so goofy, right? That even if you play good baseball, you could still lose 2 out of 3 in a series. Because I haven't watched all 21 of those games, obviously, but I'm sure there's been some luck involved. And again, I'm not saying they're not a good team, but you got to have some kind of luck to match with that skill if you've won 21 games in a row. On the road at Plainsman, going to be the most raucous atmosphere probably ever in the history of Auburn baseball. That's going to be tough for Coastal. I'm not saying that they don't have the stones to overcome it. They do. They got dogs on that team. Caden Bodine batting .329, their catcher with 45 RBIs. He's a ball player. He's a dog. I know he's not going to be scared of the moment. I understand all that. But 21 games in a row, man, that's at some point it ends, right? At some point it ends. And this theory didn't work well for me when it came to the NCAA tournament because I picked Florida to lose in the Elite Eight because they had won so many games in a row leading into that point. I said they can't keep winning all these close games, and I'll be damned if Florida just didn't do it time after time after time. But basketball and baseball, different sports. Ultimately, Florida had the best player in Clayton Jr. Baseball's weird, man. Baseball's goofy, and for a team to have won 21 games in a row, just on the road coming to Plainsman, are you going to continue that? I don't know. That's a tough ask. That is a very, very, very tough ask. But we'll see. So be tuned in, ESPN2, Friday night, 8 p.m. Central Time if you're not going to be there. But get out to Plainsman. I know there's no tickets left, but if you can, man, get out to Plainsman. And like I said, if you're going to be there Saturday, come up, say hey to me. I love to meet everybody. Before we get out of here and wrap this episode up, I do want to remind everybody about our membership program. $3.99 a month for the JV squad, $5.99 a month for the varsity squad. JV squad gets you into the members-only live chat. You get member shout-outs, priority reply to comments. If I see you down there and the live chat is popping, which happens often, especially around football season, I will be sure to get in the comments of our JV and varsity squad guys. Early access to videos. So videos like this, you guys will get to see it first before anybody else. Looking at the varsity squad, you get everything you get in the JV squad, those videos as well. Some of them are just for the varsity squad. We make them available to everybody. So, hey, man, this is a great way to help us out by signing up for these memberships, and I greatly appreciate everyone that does it. You can also go over to the warreportshop.com and get you an up-tempo t-shirt, get you one of those level up. Got the old logo on there. Like I said, we might work on some new merch to get something new out to you guys soon. But hey, ain't nothing wrong with a classic. Ain't nothing wrong with a little throwback, baby. Go over there, get you one of those. It would help us out a lot, man. You guys are the backbone that keep this podcast going. We don't have the big fancy advertisers and all that, but for all of our members and just for all of y'all that leave a super chat, or now you have the super thanks. If you didn't know that, there's something called a super thanks, where it's like a super chat, but it's just for videos that aren't live. You can leave those, and just you guys have done such a great job, and you've helped me out tremendously here. And I cannot tell you guys enough how much I appreciate it. And thank you to all our members. I love you guys. You are the absolute best. So that's going to wrap up this episode, man. Please share this out on social media. Smash the thumbs up button. We are like 7 subs away from 2,100. We're at like 2,093. So I know that there's at least 10 people watching that aren't subscribed yet. Go ahead and hit that sub button. Let your friends know that we're doing big things out here at the Uptempo Podcast. Follow me on X at DMcShaw28, and I will catch y'all guys on the next episode. Hopefully I'll see some of y'all at a Plainsman this weekend. It's War Damn Eagle forever. I'm out.